Welcome back, Splunk enthusiasts. This video is brought to you by Lame Creations, log analysis made easy, where we help you master the tools and techniques to become a Splunk pro. Welcome back to another video by Lame Creations, log analysis made easy. This is the second part of this tracing data flow from source to index. We're going to focus on the options you have once you send your data out. It does not have to go straight to an indexer. There's other reasons you might want to send it another path. So just a quick reminder, this is the second video. The first video we discussed the universal forwarder, how it sends logs, and we kind of said we send it over here to this indexer 9997, but we're going to go into what actually goes on over here. So you actually have other options for forwarding. We're going to talk about the indexer as the third option because there are reasons you want to think of these options first. The very first one is you can actually have your universal forwarder send to another universal forwarder. Now the question is, why would you do that? Well, here's one of the reasons. If you have 1,000 devices, 1,000 universal forwarders on your network, and those are all sending to one indexer, every time they're sending logs, they are opening up connections and data going in. The primary function of an indexer is, yes, to store data, but you want it to be able to retrieve that data and search it. If you just wanted to store data, you could just put it in a file share or something like that. But you actually want so I would say the main purpose of an indexer is to be able to retrieve that data. As you keep opening up those network connections and making those communication paths and making sure all that data and managing all those network ports, that's resources that are taken from your indexer. There also could be sheer logistic purposes, such as the security. You might put a firewall behind, in front of your Splunk instances. And then if each one of them is reaching out, you're going to be doing some complicated forwarding, or you're going to be putting a whole bunch of firewall holes in there. I can give lots of reasons that you would use a universal forwarder. What you'll end up doing is having one universal forwarder receive those 1,000 connections. So you set up the machine, it receives it, and then it forwards it on. We're not going to discuss how to set that up in this video, but that is a reason why you would use a universal forwarder. It's lightweight, it can collect all those logs, it will become one, and then it will connect to the indexer and you'll have one connection. Yes, the data volume will still be the same, but the amount of network connections and having to manage all of those will be removed off the universal forwarder. If you have a firewall in front of your indexers, one firewall rule to handle this one universal forwarder. The next option is almost the same thing, but it's a heavy forwarder. A heavy forwarder is Splunk Enterprise. You're going to put it just like a search head, an indexer. It's not a universal forwarder software. It's the Splunk Enterprise software, and you configure it to receive and forward. I have a video on that, but that's out of the scope here. We're going to talk about, but heavy forwarders, there's a reason you'll use them versus a universal forwarder. In the high level perspective, they'll do the exact same thing, but now we'll actually get into the nitty gritty on this. A heavy forwarder, anytime you need to make an API call, say you're pulling data from a SQL server, not the universal forwarder sending data, but you want to use, for example, DB Connect. That's API calls to your SQL server. A universal forwarder cannot do that. A heavy forwarder makes API calls. There are things getting Trend Micro, there's enrichment, pulling from cloud services, etc. If they need an API call, the heavy forwarder is what you're going to have to use. The other piece is the term cooked versus non-cooked data. And the concept is you send your logs to Splunk. If you do not, your universal forwarder forwards logs over, the data is raw. It sends the raw data, which means it's not cooked. That's kind of the concept where it comes from. At least that's my perspective. Not cooked. If you're enriching the data, parsing fields out, changing fields before they ever reach the indexer, you're cooking the data. You're changing it. You're changing that raw data before it gets indexed. That can only be done by a heavy forwarder. A universal forwarder cannot cook the data. So really it comes down to, do I want a very streamlined, low resource intensive system? There's no needing to cook the data. There's no need for API calls. I just need a lightweight forwarder. Then use the universal forwarder. It doesn't take up many resources on the system. You can use any machine, really. It won't eat up that much. And you can put the universal forwarder on it. If you're planning on cooking the data, or you need to make API calls, so you're going to change that data, you're going to make API calls, you need to use a heavy forwarder. The next option is the traditional, send it to an indexer, or you can set up indexing clustering, in which case it round robins, indexer 1, indexer 2, indexer 3, and you deal with that. Again, that's out of the scope of this video, but I want you to know that it's there. You can forward the indexer and indexer clustering, and if you use indexer clustering correctly, you'll round robin your logs, meaning the first log goes here, second log goes to number 2, third log goes to 3, then back to 1, then to 2, then to 3, and based off the load on those indexers, you send it to the system that's the least amount of congestion on it. The last option, I only put one thing here because I typically discuss Cribl. I love Cribl. I think it's an amazing product, but there are other products that do similar things. But I'm going to use Cribl as a generic term. But Cribl acts like these universal forwarders, these heavy forwarders, and it can basically receive logs, forward logs on. It can act like your heavy forwarder. It can enrich the logs, drop logs, do all sorts of filtering. The things that Cribl can do, at least at the time of this recording, significantly outweigh what a heavy forwarder can do. If you want to enrich your data, or you want to drop data, or do whatever you want to do to massage and cook that data, send it through Cribl. Cribl will parse your logs. It'll get your stuff so that your source types are much easier, everything like that. Cribl is amazing, but basically it's going to be set up the exact same way these things are. You'll set Cribl up to listen on port 9997. These will forward to a Cribl instance. They'll do their work, and then this thing will forward back onto the indexer. You can have it act like you can have a one-to-many, so many universal forwarders send to one Cribl. You can have one instance, and it's just doing it to be enriching the data. But these are options that you can use to change the source of your data, that change what the data is coming from the source before it reaches the indexer. Thanks for tuning in to Lame Creations, log analysis made easy. If you found today's video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss out on the latest tips, tools, and tutorials to boost your log analysis skills. Want to take it a step further? Become a member to support the channel and gain exclusive early access to videos and exclusive focused training. Join us on Discord, where we dive even deeper, share insights, and tackle questions together. Until next time, from Lame Creations, where we help you go from being a lame analyst to a Splunk ninja.